Good morning. Wow, what a beautiful thing to be here with you all. I do have a cold. I've tested for COVID, but I'm going to try to keep it in here so that I don't get anyone else sick. I want to invite you to just take a deep breath with me as we prepare to share in this moment. May Spirit flow through my voice and through all of our hearts and reflections as we grow together and flow with you, O Holy One, today. Amen. I was asked to begin my message, or make a part of my message today, giving some backstory about myself. I could give you the professional bio, a list of accomplishments and Insta-worthy highlights, but I would rather start with the wound. I want to frame my story through a moment of crisis, of crossing over a threshold into new life. It's not the one and done conversion moment of evangelicals. It is simply one of the many transformative storms that have shaped me. This is a story of the holy beauty in brokenness. It's a lot more interesting, I think, than the polished version of me, at least more relatable. So in May of 2014, I had crossed over many borders and bodies of water to reach Brazil, where I was trying to learn to serve God's people. Some of you at the Interfaith Center here might remember me a decade earlier, a scrawny teenager who came to sing for you at your services and bursting with hope to make a difference in the world with my songs. Not long after that, I found a spiritual home and a calling in the United Methodist Church. I set my music career aside to become a minister and serve people more concretely and humbly, I felt, than I could from the stage as a musician. I studied Spanish and Portuguese, racial justice and gender equality. I strove to embody the Methodist Church's mission to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. I worked to fit my soul's song into the church's time-honored traditions and doctrines. In 2014, I did an exchange program as a seminary student in Sao Paulo. I had support, I had talents, I had opportunities. I also had crippling anxiety and insomnia that didn't let me fully engage in the community, the academics, the experience there. I had overwhelming feelings of being judged and unvalued in my romantic partnership. I was reading sermons about conversion for a class I was taking, and I despaired that I had never been renewed or empowered like that in any way, progressive, traditional, evangelical, whatever. I felt naked and exposed. I felt unclean and unlovable. On my birthday eve, I waded through rivers of tears all day. Late in the evening, mostly out of desperation, I finally got up the courage to knock on the door of Dr. Ellison, a young Black pastoral care professor who was actually on exchange as well from my seminary in Atlanta. He had earned my trust with his mystical vision and his attentiveness to the most marginalized person in any space. So I went to see Dr. E. He invited me to stand in front of a mirror. As the tears kept flowing, I'm not a pretty crier, he asked me, "Who do you see?" I looked at my vulnerable, blotchy face contorted with pain. I could not see anything but the demons I was battling. He asked me to look at my hands instead, to remember all the things that they do for me, to look deeper. I started to see glimmers of capability and beauty. I started to touch this wise presence within me that could observe the blubbering, inadequate, hot mess of me with compassion. Then Dr. E read me this story from the Gospel of Mark that I am slightly abridging for you. Jesus and his disciples came to the other side of the lake, to the region of the Gerasenes. As soon as Jesus got out of the boat, a man possessed by an evil spirit came out. This man lived among the tombs, and no one was strong enough to restrain him. He broke chains and smashed leg irons. Night and day, he would howl and cut himself with stones. When he saw Jesus, he ran and knelt before him, shouting, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of God? Swear to God you won't torture me." Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" He responded, "Legion is my name, because we are many." They pleaded with Jesus not to send them out of that region. "Send us into the pigs," they begged. So they left the man and went into a large herd of pigs nearby, and then the whole herd ran off the cliff into the lake and drowned. Those who tended the pigs ran away and told the story. People came to see what had happened. They came to Jesus and saw the very man who had been filled with many demons sitting there, fully dressed and completely sane, and they were filled with awe. Dr. E finished reading and said, "What is your name?" "I know the world calls you Sari. I'm not talking about what other people call you or who they want you to be. Who are you? What is the name of your essence?" And I thought, oh boy, this is too hippie and woo-woo even for me right now. I do not trust myself to come up with a new name that was actually my true name all along. But I didn't say anything to Dr. E. I went along with it. I had nothing to lose at that point. I searched long and hard underneath the pain. I finally squeaked out a couple words hesitantly. Dr. E said, "What's underneath that?" "Maybe it's not even in English," he said. "Maybe your soul speaks another language." I closed my eyes, and suddenly I saw an imaginary landscape unfold within me. It was a place I had taken refuge in before. It was this lush midnight forest. I was walking along this path of soft, dark soil that nourishes my soul, lined with weeping willow trees that glowed with this mysterious, magical light. Then a word spilled out of me in Spanish, in sueño, a dream space. Dr. E, who does not speak Spanish, said, "That's it." And he was right. I was that fertile forest that dreams up new worlds. In sueño, I had found my name. A few days later, I sat beneath this giant ficus tree that looked like, I don't know if it had, but it looked like it had been growing on the university's campus since the conquerors came. And the tree gifted me a song called What's Your Name? That some of you might have heard before. Eventually, that song became the first track on my Holy Broken Heart album that helped me reclaim my calling to spiritual leadership as a musician, to make spaces of healing and creativity and growth through music. Now, it has not been a straight, easy path in the 9.5 years since then. I have kept navigating waves of depression and anxiety and self-doubt and stifling my soul's song. I lived through a tumultuous marriage, many wounding experiences with the church, traumatic initiation into motherhood, which is also paradoxically the most beautiful thing I've ever done. Now I am crossing into a new land of power and authentic truth as a minister, a musician, and a mother with a loving, supportive partner. I'm also still on a journey through uncertain waters. I'm on leave from pastoral ministry right now, voluntary leave, but I'm still seeking ordination, and I'm walking an uncharted path toward ministry outside of the church's usual boundaries in deeper connection with the earth, our bodies, and expansive spirituality. I continue learning from people like you, from your stories of crossing into new and strange landscapes, of long healing journeys, of the wise presence within you. I am convinced that we are here right now, as well as here in the bigger sense, to hear each other's stories, to hear each other's names, to witness each other's deepest truths. So to make space for this witnessing, I need to explain a little bit more about why names and naming are such an important part of it to me and from my spiritual tradition. In Jesus' native language of Aramaic, words have mystical power. This is true in general of Middle Eastern languages, as I think you probably heard in our meditation today. In Judaism and Islam, the name of God isn't only a title, but a divine presence that vibrates in us when we speak it. Sufi teacher Neil Douglas Klotz explains that when Jesus prays the now famous line from the Lord's Prayer, "Hallowed be thy name," or "Nitqadish Shemach" in Aramaic, he is speaking of clearing a space within us for the presence of God to dwell. A space to allow our unique identity to resonate with the holy, to flow with God's will or generative creative power. I want to invite you right now to take a moment to experience that, to clear space for the divine name to dwell in you by praying these words, Nitqadish Shemach. So if it feels right, I invite you to place a hand on your heart and breathe the sound of these words into your heart. Nitqadish Shemach. Again, Nitqadish Shemach. And once more, Nitqadish Shemach. Y'all are amazing. You actually said that with me. Welcoming the name within us, I want to invite us to revisit this story from the Gospel of Mark together with openness to what may resonate for each of us. Jesus and the disciples have crossed the lake. Actually, what you didn't read was through a frightening storm the night before. And they've reached an unfamiliar place. The Gerasenes is a foreign land to them. As soon as they step off the boat, they encounter something that's foreign, that's strange in another way. A man possessed by an evil spirit emerges from the graveyard where he was banished by the locals who couldn't restrain him even with shackles and chains. He lives in isolated torment. When he sees Jesus, he runs up and shouts, "What do you want with me, Son of God? Please don't torture me." And Jesus sees beneath the uncontrollable compulsions, the shrieking fear, the graveyard loneliness, the gaping wounds, the dead dreams. He sees a human being in there. He asks the man, "What is your name?" The man is unable to respond as himself. The force that possesses him says legion, for there are many demons within him. Before you leap to the conclusion that demon possession is an archaic and superstitious experience that does not apply to us, consider this. Legion is not just another way to say many. It is a division of soldiers in the Roman army. One of the most important legions of the Roman army at that time used a pig's head as their mascot. The demons that overpower this man are an occupying power. They represent an empire that keeps peace through violence and control, that reconfigures and divides communities, that strips away dignity and self-determination. The occupying forces rewrite history, redefine truth, and ration out hope until they drive individuals mad. To Jesus, this man was not strange at all. To borrow the words of activist Valerie Kaur, he saw this man and said, "You are a part of me I do not know yet." His writhing pain was simply externalizing the inner battle that we all face under the logic of empire. The demons that tell some of us to live in fear, to submit to oppression, to never trust our own power to make a better world. The demons that tell others to produce, to achieve, to consume, to conform to a system that chooses who gets to be fully human. The demons that tell all of us that we are actually unworthy, unlovable, and insufficient as we are. The empire labels us as born leaders or bound losers, as good citizens or unruly rebels, as admirable or obsolete, each with its own pressures and confines that do not encompass our complexity and beauty. We have often been whatever others expected us to be. We have kept busy until we are tired and numb in the name of survival or purpose or prosperity, or the pure fear of not knowing who we would be without all the doing. In some moments, it has driven us to graveyards of isolation, self-destruction, and confusion. All of us are sitting here dressed and apparently in our right minds today, but I have no doubt that each of us has battled demons that have overpowered our true self. Jesus cuts through the noise. "What is your name?" he asks. "Do you remember?" We never learn the name of the demon-possessed man, and I believe that's because Jesus was not really asking him the name the world calls him. He is asking what I want to ask you now. What is the name of your soul's essence, who you were created to be? What in you uniquely resonates with the divine name? I want to invite you to take a moment to reflect on how you might begin to describe this. You can close your eyes if it helps. In a word, sound, color, shape, sensation. What comes up? This and nothing else is what the world needs of you. Dr. E gave me a lot more time than I'm giving you. But in the interest of time, I'm going to move along. I want to invite you to join me in just a moment in creating a space for the divine name to dwell in a bigger way now. The way I do this is based on a group exercise from Theater of the Oppressed, which is a grassroots education method out of Brazil with transformative spiritual implications. And when I've done this before, people thought it was really weird, but I'm going to do it anyway, and we're going to see how it goes. So I want to invite you to stand up for a few minutes if you're comfortable, or you could just kind of turn a little bit towards the center of the room. And if anyone wants to come around just a little bit to make a little bit more of a circle, then you're welcome to do that, because the idea is to have a sense of a circle here. And this next part will call on this is going to call on the power of imagination. So here in the center of the circle, we face a gaping hole, a huge wound in the earth. This is the wound of the violence, the dehumanization, the dividing walls between us. It is the wound of abuse, desecration, disconnection in our relationship with nature. And this is a healing circle that we have created. What if all that is needed to liberate creation from the demons of empire is the resonance of each unique name, each reflection of the divine fully expressed? Creation is waiting for each of us. Yes, you and me, oppressed and privileged, sick and healthy, black and white, Palestinian and Israeli, to contribute our true names, our divine essence to healing the wound. So I don't expect you necessarily to have committed to a new name to express your soul's essence in that moment of meditation. Whatever feels right to you in this moment, whether it's your given name or something else, I want to invite you to offer the healing power of your name to this wound in the earth. Like I said, this may feel weird. You don't have to do it if it doesn't feel right, but I promise that I have found surprising medicine in this ritual. So we begin softly with a whisper. We'll take a breath in together, and on the out breath, I invite you to whisper your name into the center. And we'll do that another time. Now we'll speak our names out loud after the in-breath. En sueño. Now I invite you to extend your hands when you do it. En sueño. And another time. En sueño. And now we'll shout them. En sueño. And now I want you to just move however you feel when you shout them. En sueño. And one more time. En sueño. And on the next breath, I invite you to breathe out the name of your soul in silence, whether you have a word for it or just a feeling. Offer it to the circle for the healing of the world. May we trust that the essence and truth of each unique self we are bringing is worthy, beautiful, holy, and needed. We give thanks to the creative force of the universe for the healing power of each name, of each presence, of each beautiful human being here as we resonate with your most holy name.